Tell time.
Next contestant, please.
Thank you. Hello there. My name is Lucas Bolton, for those who don't know. You probably do know if you're watching this channel, but I feel it's important to reinforce who I am. I am one of the hosts of this tournament. It has gone on for a few months. We had a bit of a delay, unfortunately, which has led to the decision that Emily and I would essentially just end the tournament with the Grand Final Part 1. However, in the spirit of fairness, we both decided we wanted Casey's side of what the Time Busters race would have been, so consider this a prototype, to be uploaded. Now, I believe, let me just check the properties on this. Right, July. Jesus Christ. So this was recorded back on the 12th of July this year, of course. Now, the thing is, the goal for this was going to be that you had to essentially beat Babba's Cave, right? So it starts with Babba's Cave and Time Buster like that. The save state takes you right to it, and you were just going to finish this level, defeat Babba, and then you would go to the Transylvanian Era, because at this point, the save state had enough gears saved up for that era to open. And then what would have happened was the player, as you're going to see in this, would have a few choices in the Transylvanian Era. They would have to either 100% the main hub, and that does not include the 100 gear, by the way, that you get from lost characters. That could be excluded because that takes a bit of time and exploration to get that one. So you would just need to get 400 gears in the bell tower token. So that would have been what would have netted that goal's completion. Or another way you could have netted the Transylvanian goal's completion is by doing the level or the Haunted River. The level, which was Zoovania. It would have been one of the main levels, or the hub, basically. You would have to 100%. Then you would go into Bloodcount's Castle. Now, I'm going to explain this a bit more laconically and with greater emphasis on conciseness, right? Essentially, what would happen is you would start in Babba's Cave, complete Babba's Cave, no need to get everything in it, just defeat the boss, get up to the boss, defeat him. Then you would go to Transylvanian Era, 100% either the hub world, one of the main levels, and then you would get all the boss tokens and go to fight Bloodcount, right? Really simple but hard to explain without making it sound complicated. But pretty much what's going on here is Casey is fighting Babba now. Well, Emily and I have already concluded that Emily and Casey are the joint winners of this tournament. By virtue of, Emily did come first in the Lost in Time race, which I highly recommend you watch if you haven't at this point. It was good. I was pretty pleased with my audio mix in that one, actually, because it goes from Emily's audio when she's playing it to our audio when Casey was just about to finish. Good stuff in there, really funny. Now, as well as that, we felt Casey would have won this game anyway. Reason being, the other people that were going to be in the grand final. Unfortunately, Connor, he had to pull out for personal reasons, and also because at the time we had a fellow, ISGP tournament going on, which was Smash Women's Cup, and at the time, myself and Connor were meant to actually do the World Tag League. Sorry, it's the Spiral World Tag League tournament that was going on. My bad if I got that wrong. We were the Celtic lads. Now, originally it was going to happen, but unfortunately, mental health ended up not really being too good, and I had to pull it for personal reasons, which is good, because we never retired the Celtic lads. But anyway, the thing was, he wanted to put more energy into that, and that was before the decision was made to pull out that tournament. So therefore, by the time that I've gotten to uploading this, he actually was considering coming back just to do Grand Final Part 2, but I just, like I said, I convinced Emily, it's just best to call it a day. The thing is, this game, it's not as, I would say, it's not quite as long as Lost of Time, but it can be slightly, the conveyance is a bit, it definitely expects the player to, work a lot of stuff out on their own, which is personally what I like about it, but it's not going to, it's not going to be to everybody's taste. I don't think this game tailors the tutorial quite as well as Lost in Time. The Lost in Time, the tutorial is what you get in the game, and the levels just accommodate that. This game, however, it focuses heavily on the exploration. Everything needs to, almost everything in this game needs to be explored to get everything. It's like that in Lost in Time, but it's done in a much more linear fashion. For example, everything is clear. There is no real wide spaces. And what Casey has decided to do for the Transylvanian era is he is going for the gears on the Haunted River, which is definitely what is recommended in the goal. And the reason for that is because for all the difficulty this level has, bats, spears, you miss the gears often, stalactites like that one that just fell there. Basically, there is an element of... There's an element of, that regardless of how long, if you failed this 5 times, it would still be faster than getting Zoovania, because Zoovania, it doesn't take a long time to do it perfectly in one run. It takes the same amount, would probably take the same amount of time as failing this 10 times and getting everything. That's kind of the logic we based it on. And I will just say right now, there is 31 minutes left of this video, so it was not terribly too long, laborious. It was not too laborious, this. Casey did a very good job. He's very good at knowing how to control the stiffness of this fucking thing when plank. And, he gets hit a few times, but the carrots more than make up for it. And he gets that 25 right away. I had trouble with that, so fair play to him for being able to get that first time. There's the first boss token collected for this hub world. And he's going to replay to get the rest. Now, I have decided that I wanted to explain things going on with the tournament, and I decided, I would just explain all of it in my own separate audio track, because quite honestly, there was not a lot of interest. I would not say the commentary was super duper involved. In this video, we were not expecting to use it. So that's it's some things are out of date in the commentary at this point. Information given out. I will say though, like, Looney Tunes Rush 2 will come back. That is said in the commentary. It will come back at some point. We're just not too sure how that's going to manifest itself in the future. Could be next year, could be the next. Look, you know, it has a good foundation. You know, it's simple. It has a few stages. In this case, say good night. There's a few stages to the groups, and the round structure was pretty decent. It was just by the end, Emily's work obligations, on top of, you know, the fact that Marcus had to pull out for mental health reasons and Connor had to pull out for his, you know, personal reasons that was completely understood. You know, this was not a game that everybody's played. Lost in Time definitely had a lot more of a install base, if you like. There was a lot more people that played it. And it's funny because, in my opinion, you know, I made no bones about this. You know, I was very clear about this from day one. This game to me is better in almost every single way to Lost in Time, and you know, it was good that the hosts. You know, we also had Connor as a host, who replaced me for a month or two. While I was recovering from some stress due to my feelings about lockdown at that time, because this all started back in, like, I think the end of January or something like that. The idea kind of spawned in another tournament that I was involved in called Disney Dash, which I've cut ties with at this point completely. It is no longer my 50%. It's no longer 50% of my idea sort of tournament anymore. It is now in the property of the people that you know, run it now, of course. But before, it was like team. You know, it sort of amalgamated two servers. Now, a point for mentioning this tournament. There was Bugs Bunny's beat off. I believe Danta, who's one of the moderators in this server for the Looney Tunes Rush tournament, he was the one that actually made this text channel in the Dash, and pretty much what that was, Bugs Bunny's beat off, was just a little joke. They sort of became something more concrete, because you know how it goes. Like you snowball one idea, and then another snowball comes along and builds up, and then you know you get essentially like a fully formed thing. There we go. Like Casey's finished the level, very quick. His skill level is very high, evidently, and so Danta wanted to do a Looney Tunes Rush style tournament, where it would be Lost in Time, Time Busters. I don't think Dante had actually played Lost in Time very much, but he definitely had plenty of experience with Time Busters. So he's not like me, because I had plenty of experience with Lost in Time, but he had about the same experience with Time Busters I had with the game too. So eventually, you know, through some of the, I guess you could say, feelings of inadequacy that I had after Dash had ended, to put no filter on the matter, I wanted something to sort of claim my more control over, pretty much. I will not deny, I wanted a bit more control on something, a passion project, if you will. This to me, I loved these games as a kid, like, but Emily specifically at the time was playing a lot of Bugs Bunny a lot of the time because she just bought it again on eBay. That was the time and we agreed that, like, when she got a computer we would do something, and she said, why don't we do Looney Tunes Rush? And essentially I was like a bit reluctant at first because again, you know, I didn't want to feel like it was a favour or anything like that. I wanted it to be a mutual sort of partnership. And I think it ended up being that, to be honest. Like, yes, I think we could both admit the grand final could have been a bit sped up a bit, but I wouldn't say necessarily that made it a disaster. There was no drama, which, you know, was structured in such a way that there couldn't be any drama. This was actually how I wanted, you know, Dash to be structured, actually, funnily enough. Because I knew that where, like, a division lay in that sort of in the choosing of some of the participants in that. I knew that but when it got confirmed to me, I knew for a fact I had to stick to my guns, and Emily and I were very particular. You know, this was an invitational tournament, you could say. And now, you know, the characters that you see in ISGP, you know, it was a lot of those regulars that were in this tournament. I think Ryan, aka Primal, our good friend Primal Mortist, he was, you know, he's in ISGP, but he's not a regular in it, and he was only really known for the one highlight in the ISGP 2 video. Marcus, tell us about the doorstop story. You know, that one. Yes. So, in that sense, like, it felt familiar. There was a familiarity. It was almost partner tournament to, or you could say, like, associate tournament to the likes of Sparse Women's Cup, and then World Tag League, because again they go on for that length of time, and even Road to Spiral Style, and Spiral and King of Spiral Style, yeah, Road to King of Spiral Style, and Road and King of Spiral Style / Queen of Spiral Style. Now, what was good was I always liked the idea of blind tournaments. I liked the idea that unlike a Spiral or a Crash, where you would have played these games, you know, I think Emily and I, with our combined, like, knowledge on this, and, you know, even though she hadn't played Timer, so she owned it, you know, and played a bit, but, well, maybe was a bit disappointed how different it actually felt to Lost Time, which is fair enough. Like, you know, it's what you become accustomed to. And to be fair, like, once you get past the sort of the more spirally nature of this game, when compared to the more corridor-like nature of, in linear style of Lost Time, you do appreciate this game a hell of a lot more. For its, I guess it's for the mechanics, the idea, like this idea here, with the mind control, and also the fact that like every world, like, it was structured similarly, but they managed to, like, make completely different ideas. Like, the sports games were different, the platform was different, for example, in the levels. But they managed to, like, pack in a lot with less quantity and more quality, in my opinion. But that's not to say like Lost in Time didn't have advantages over this game. For example, Lost in Time had cartoon names for the levels based on the 30s to the probably to right up to the 90s sort of period of Looney Tunes cartoons. This game alludes to this. Like, obviously this is based on Bloodcount was a character in the cartoon, but it's not going to specifically tell you which episode it comes from. In that sense, like, you know, it's you pick and choose. To me, what made this game so much better was mechanics. His jumping in this game, even as Taz, you know, because obviously Taz wasn't in, it's so much better. But that's just my opinion. I can totally see why people would prefer Lost in Time. It's simpler, sleeker. It tutorializes things well. The levels themselves have a unique charm to them. They're not quite as 3D as this game. They're like a very good combination that really fits the style of Looney Tunes. You know, and also, you know, the collectathon aspect was well handled for the linear nature of the game, in a sense. They knew what they were doing. But, you know, controls to me are very important, and I do think this game had smoother controls, in my opinion. Especially for the helicopter, which was fun to use in this game. But then you have another thing where it's like, the roll, like, you know, the roll winds up, but in Lost in Time, you had a spam. You had one that could be spammed, and it was great fun. Spammable. But essentially, like, to go to get off the tangent here, the last 5 minutes, Emily and I were able to create, were able to have a good foundation. There was no disagreements. We discussed things. The whole idea of the semi-finals, you know, like, we planned it along the way. It was very spontaneous. I would base it on gut instinct, and then she would like organise, you know, announcements and the group roles and the text challenge for groups. I think we ended up for the. I think it was round 2. Like, we ended up going for an Irish theme because you know, a lot of the names, Tipperary, Galway, and there's one other one I can't remember right now. I'm sorry, Connor. I'm thinking on the spot here. Fuck. Like, okay, that's just an example, right? All of this was, you know, we you know, Connor was very good at contributing. We had good fun with the actual planning of it all in, you know, a very natural way. I don't think either of us had this planned out in our head the way that the rounds would be structured. We had no idea how the grand final was going to play out. We had no idea of the goal. We just we go with the flow. And here is the Zoovania level, which Casey is only doing to get a token. There will be no collecting this one. It will just be token, and then that's it. You know, he's ready to fight blood count. So, very good performance from Casey. This is why I didn't want Casey's efforts to go to waste. You know, and there is a lot to think about. Like, this whole puzzle here. Like, you wouldn't get a puzzle like this in lots of things. You know, now, you know, I noticed as well, like, if you've watched round 1, there was a couple of other games that showed up in this tournament. Now, it was Danta was looking at a Wikipedia of PS1 games, and yes, Morgan, I do apologise if you're watching this, Morgan. Like, it would be lovely if you did, because it's always a pleasure to hear from you. But if you are watching this, we will make sure Space Jam is in Looney Tunes Rush 2. You can count on that. But anyway, so I found out Looney Tunes Racing was probably played by like one person. I can't even remember who it was right now. I genuinely, right. So one of the viewers, Al Malloy, he, out of everybody that sort of had an association to this tournament, was the only person who actually had experience with it pre-2021. Because he never actually grew up with it. It was a very basic racing game, but what made it good was it was just this easy pick up. You didn't need to practice it too much sort of game. This game in Lost in Time, like, while it's infinitely superior, they certainly have you definitely have to put the time in to get as good as Casey did with memorization and movement, and that bubblegum can burst really easily. So it's a strenuous sort of playstyle when compared to Ninja's Racing. So a mediocre racing game that actually in the setting of a tournament for one race does wonders. But it's important to note as well, goals for that game are not easy to come up with. So it would like sort of make variations on the same goal, maybe like change the cup here or there, or try and add a time system to it. I think that was one of Al's ideas. Appreciate that that you came up with that, a time attack mode sort of thing. Or we would do a points based sort of race with the same sort of tracks showing up, because that was one of the problems of the game. It was a tiny bit monotonous after a while, but it controlled well, and it was good. It was good for maybe 20 or 30 minutes of play, which worked well in round one. And then we also had a game that I did grow up with but never really got far in, and that was Sheepdog and Wolf. Now, I am sad to say it might have gotten 2 races only in the whole tournament. Now, as well, Looney Tunes Racing, LTR, I thought that was perfect, Looney Tunes Rush, LTR, Looney Tunes Racing. I thought it was just perfect. So it had to make the cut, even if it wasn't one of the best Looney Tunes games. And then one of the hardest games of all time, which still had Daffy in it, a loose connection to the main games, the mandatory ones, which was obviously this and Lost Time, encouraged Looney Tunes Racing and Sheepdog and Wolf. The 2 races in that were very memey, and the game was just a little too hard to be accessible to a lot of people, whereas this one was simply more on a medium level of difficulty, quite frankly. I lost time too. But yeah, it was decided at an early stage that these games wouldn't take priority in the round 2, or the triple threat match that ended up happening with all the second placers. That ended up being myself, Danta, and Marcus. But as I sort of alluded to, like, the risk of sounding arrogant, I think I would have had that in the bag if I hadn't wanted to sort of take a break, and by that I just sort of I didn't try to lose, but I didn't really try very hard to win either. And well done, Casey. Good job. He's about to tickle the rings. But Marcus did well, as always. Marcus didn't end up being the biggest fan of Lost in Time. Dante and I had a bit more experience with it. And you did blow us out the water. I had a lot more experience with it. Oh, nice work, Casey. Good job. Forgot that actually happened. Forgot that happened where he just barely reached the ledge. And he didn't need that. Oh well. That's for the collecting the gears. Anyway, he's going to go to this room here and he's going to do a bunch of a couple puzzles, colour-based puzzles where he's just going to light everything up in the order that is shown on the painting there, based on the colours. It can be a tiny bit tricky because these floor master motherfuckers can come out and catch you completely off guard, but Casey knows exactly what he's doing, so it's all good. You got it wrong, I think. Yeah. Even despite getting this wrong, I still think he was faster than what the others would have done at the section. But yes, I felt that although Marcus did well in the triple threat, his consistency in the tournament itself was questionable. But a lot of that had to do with his own internal struggles at that time. I mean, the thing is, he was already pretty burnt out with tournaments, you see, so it was kind of, and also, I believe, the World Tag League as well was something that he wasn't, unfortunately, wasn't quite, oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, he has to go all the way back. It was something that he had to put more energy into, and I think it, unfortunately, with the two coinciding at the same time, it zapped him, and he did have to drop out of this one, which did make the part 2 seem a lot more anticlimactic, and I think that was a big part of why this never really ended up coming together, and the way that, would have wrapped it up nicely like that parcel that he just got out of. Fuck you, Bugs Bunny, I said, My bingo tournaments, yes. Yes, we have been hijacked. Anyway, there's something that is so awesome about this final level that it just had to be shown off as a final hurrah to this tournament. And it's because I like the atmosphere of it. It's perfect for a final level. And this is something I did prefer over this game as well. The final level in Lost Time didn't have a climactic feel to it. It was training your brain, a puzzly sort of, mechanically different sort of level overall, by the end. And you didn't. By the time you got like the 100%, you didn't really have what felt like a proper boss to me. I couldn't even tell you what like. I'm guessing Marvin was the final boss of that game, but it didn't. But his boss fight doesn't really feel like a final boss fight, if that makes sense. So overall, I do find it very disappointing, the way that game ended. But this game, okay, like it didn't end in a. I don't consider this boss fight remarkable, but I do think the atmosphere of it was certainly perfect. It worked really well in that sense. But we're going to explain something. I'm going to explain some things here. This guy can be an absolute pain in the ass. Look at what's going on with the emulator. It is for whatever reason, the hitbox on his head was much bigger than it was on a console. And so every time he would throw out the floor, which you're meant to obviously, bonk him before it happens, he wouldn't actually throw the floor fully. It actually would break. You see it break on his head before it like knocks out, which meant he was given like a boost in speed to go to the next floor, because normally you would wait for it to break before he moved, which is what happened. It broke. Now, after explaining the difficulties of that bit, which he eventually did bonk on his head. Now this first statue can be moved, right? There's no need to, but this second one and the fourth one, as I did actually explain in the original commentary to this, on the NTSC version, does not let you push it on its own. You have to wait until blood count gets into a vulnerable position, which in this case is him like standing in front of me and saying something like, "Now I will crush you," or something along those lines. Yeah, that right. And then he turns into a bat, and then you can actually get it. This was so overly complicated to work out, and I'm pretty sure the PAL version didn't have this problem. So it could either be an NTSC problem, an emulator problem, or both. I have never played an NTSC disc of this game to confirm my hypothesis, but my feelings are the second gargoyle and the fourth gargoyle in this boss fight, the fact you have to hit blood count for them was a programming error by far, because I am certain it did not happen in the PAL version, and it could just be an emulator thing, but, and I will test out PAL on emulator, but as we know, they're not very compatible on EPS6e. I will give it a go at some point and see for myself. As you'll see, like, he can bounce up here, there's no need to hit blood count, and you can get that third one down. It is an absolute joke. Now, I still think Casey's run was very good here, despite a couple blips on the Haunted River as expected, and a couple of blips in the puzzle areas before fighting blood count. I think it was a pretty good attempt, and I honestly think I made a tutorial for Emily when we were still thinking that this grand final was going to be all put together, and to put it bluntly, I still don't think that tutorial would have been good enough to get her to play the way Casey did here. It was at least 5 minutes slower than this run, the tutorial I did. I'm fairly certain of that. Okay, now he's hit blood count, now you can move this statue. And this is the final statue before it cuts. And there we go. Now Casey can be officially declared the winner because he did not DNF. He was able to do his part, and he came over just to do it on the July the 14th, 2021. So Casey could claim the jewel for this one, but Emily, because she was like at least 2 or 3 minutes ahead of Casey, which was unbelievable, might I add. I'm still quite shocked by that, doesn't it? She could claim the lost time queen crown. And now they are both joint winners, and this is about to end. So I will keep it going a little bit. I will just wrap this up completely. The standings for Looney Tunes Rush 1 are Casey and Emily, Timebusters King, Lost of Time Queen, are joint first. Then comes Connor, who finished his part in Grand Final Part 1. And then Marcus is third. And I believe Danta could actually be fourth, because Danta finished a little bit before me in the triple threat race that determined Marcus's position. And I came fifth, but to be honest, I still think I am an all-rounder. I think if I put a little more energy into it, and hadn't been depleted from edits, I think I edited about 15 races for this. This edit is fine. This is easy. This one, I'm just going to put. I'm just going to put the background on it, and yeah, that should do. But yeah, there will be a Looney Tunes Rush 2. I intend to take a break. There's plans for CBT. I will not say anything more, but given the recent tournament that is happening on ISGP soon, it would have to be a long while after that one before CBT can be done, and it will not be hosted by me. It will be spearheaded by Marcus Terry Bedford and Emily Dixon. Anyway, thank you for listening. You've been a wonderful. If you've stuck to the end, of this, like, thank you. It means more than words can possibly say, because I don't have them. And I will see you some other time. Goodbye.